Hi, and welcome once again to Smooth Moves with the Bradshaw Group, the show where we can take a closer look at and answer your questions about real estate topics or basically anything that matters to you that affects you in our community. I'm Jan Bradshaw, and I am the owner of the Bradshaw Group. And first of all, I want to thank the people who have reached out and let me know that they did enjoy our show. It's great to see that, and we even had some questions sent in.
That's amazing. That's great.
I was excited. And you know, guys, these questions, they're what helps us to provide information that you want to hear about. So keep the questions coming. There's no stupid question. I know some people are like, I don't want to ask a question. If you've got a question, you can pretty much bet that there's someone somewhere else that's wondering the same thing, but you're the brave one that actually asked it. So kudos to you. I have Tim Duncan again with me in the studio. He's with Synergy Counseling of Greenwood, and he was with me last time, and we had such a good time doing it that we decided to do it again.
And thanks for having me back, Jan. I really appreciate it. It was a great time and great opportunity to be on Emerald City Radio and spend some time Bradshaw Group.
Absolutely. So, last time we discussed some topics that it was mainly about stress from real estate and just stress in life, and how to lessen it a little bit. So, Tim, I'm going to talk my real estate stuff. I'm going to answer my real estate questions, and then Tim is going to take the lead. I'm going to ask him the questions that got sent in to him, and he's going to answer those. Sound okay?
That sounds great to me.
All right.
I love when we get questions in. I think that's great.
All right, so you ready to get started?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
I almost was going to say if we didn't get any questions, I had a couple of my own, but I'm really glad that we got a couple of questions from people who've been listening. That's great for us.
Absolutely. Well,
No stupid questions. The answers might be a little challenging, but
that's true.
No
But
stupid
yeah,
questions.
feel free to ask whatever you want.
Okay, so here is our first question that we have, and this one I actually can relate to because I kind of have experienced this, and I think we'll probably find many people have experienced this.
Okay.
The question is, what can I do if I never hear from my agent and I can't even get a hold of them after I've signed that contract?
That's a tough one. Not really, actually. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, every agent should have a broker. There's something wrong if they don't have a broker. What I would do is if you've reached out to the agent and you just can't get in touch with them, or they say, I'll call you back in a few minutes, and you don't hear from them, whatever the situation, you need to let their broker know. Because ultimately, the broker is responsible for how their agents treat the clients.
Okay.
And the broker may not know that that particular agent is not following up. So that's the first step you want to take, is make sure the broker is aware of it. The next thing you want to do is give them an opportunity to correct whatever it is that they didn't do. Give them an opportunity to be more responsive. Let them know that you're expecting them to be responsive. It is part of their job. So, you know, a lot of times people come out, put the sign in the yard, and that's it. You don't hear anything else from them. That's not the way we do it. That's not the way we should do it anyway. Let me correct that. And if both of those things don't work and you're still not satisfied with the service that particular agent is providing, or that company is providing, you can always ask to be released from a contract. We hope that it never goes that far, but if it does, then that's the next step. It's kind of like the final step is, look, you're not providing me with the service that I expected. I'd like to be released.
Wow. See, to me, that's great information, because I don't know if many people really understand that their realtor is part of an organization, and that there is someone that is in charge or responsible for making sure everything's done. And talking about going to the broker if you can't get a hold of your agent, that is huge. I really do like that opportunity.
All agents, we're all self-employed. Yes, we work for ourselves, but every company should have guidelines on what they expect from their agents. Because if one of my agents aren't handling something right, it's going to shine on me and the company.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing that a broker or owner of a company would want, so.
And that's one of, I guess in the same line, that's one of those things that a lot of people may or may not know. It depends on who they are, and we'll probably have a mixed bunch, but even being able to get out of a contract.
Absolutely, and
You
that's.
feel so much pressure going into the contract that to think you can actually get out of it
Right.
might be new to people.
That's, yeah, and a lot of agents, they don't make that known for whatever reason, and it doesn't come up in general conversation, but it is part of the listing agreement that's signed on a seller or a buyer. If they're not happy with you, they can release you and vice versa.
Yeah, wow, great, that's
Okay.
great. Okay, well, here's our second question. We had another one.
Okay,
This one's a little bit longer, so pay close attention,
okay.
all right?
Do I need to take notes?
I don't think you need to take notes. I'll repeat as you need.
Got it, thank you.
All right. I talked to 2 different agents when listing my home, and one came in with one price and another came in with a much lower price. How can that happen? To the person that called in, it was a no-brainer which one to list with, but how did they come in with 2 different prices?
It happens more often than it should. I would like to ask that person a question is, did it sell? And when it sold, did it sell for the lower price or the higher price? Just out of curiosity, and how long it took it to sell. Because when you list high, people always want to say, yes, list high and then we'll get offers, but that is not the case. Okay. So many times, if you overshoot the market too much, it's just going to cause your house to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's still not going to sell for any more.
Right.
So, that's something that you kind of need to be aware of. But when your agent that you're going to hire, when they're coming in to do what we call a CMA or market analysis, it's actually the same thing as an appraisal. But because we aren't appraisers, we can't say it's an appraisal.
Okay.
But what that does is it will show the seller in black and white how their house compares to others in the similar neighborhood, similar style, similar age, all that stuff. So the market analysis actually justifies the price. I recently went on a listing presentation, and she had talked to another agent, and she said, Jan, they told me da-da-da-da-da, and I know better. My house, and I said, well, you're smart.
Yeah.
You're
right.
smart. But anyway, sometimes realtors will shoot high because they want their sign in your front yard, because that gives them the opportunity, it gives them name and brand exposure for one thing. It's kind of like advertising. And something else, it gives them an opportunity to bring a buyer.
Yeah.
But what it doesn't do is it doesn't make your house sell for that higher price. So while it's good for the listing agent, it's not always good for the seller.
And that makes a lot of sense, I think, because most people, they want everything to sell for the most amount of money that it possibly can.
And that's our job.
Yeah.
Our job is to get our sellers the most amount of money we can get within reason, without overshooting the market.
And some people, I wonder, I guess it's kind of twofold with that one of, it's your personal property, so you want to try to have it sell for the top dollar that it possibly can. Mm-hmm. But there's a downside, I assume, if it sits on the market too long.
Absolutely.
That makes people hesitate or think differently.
You don't know how many phone calls I get sometimes. It's like, Jan, why has this house been on the market for 60 days? Yeah. Why has this house, da-da-da-da-da-da? It's like, oh, something's wrong with it. No, it's a perfect house. It was just priced inappropriately. So, yes, it can definitely be a negative to overprice the house. And, something else you got to think about, talking about appraisers and appraisals, the bottom line is no matter, let's say you've got your house $50,000 overpriced, and you get a buyer that they fall in love with the house and say, yeah, we'll give it to you. This is my dream home. If when it goes to the lender and the appraiser is called out, if it doesn't appraise, you're not going to get that for the house.
Right.
So, the appraiser has, their word is the final word. And something else about appraisals. I get this question a lot. I don't know if but anyway, Jan, who does the appraiser work for, the buyer or the seller?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. They don't work for either. The appraiser, it works specifically for the bank or the lending institution that's going to loan you the money. No agent has anything to do with it, nobody except the bank and the appraiser. And I can assure you, a bank is not going to loan more than what the appraiser says the house is worth.
And that's really good information to know, though, because everybody has all these questions. Just like in my field, we get the questions after questions about that, and that is really good to know and probably reassuring that there's a middleman in there with the appraiser, and he's only going to do what's done to not overinflate your house, but also not to underappreciate it either.
Exactly. And you just gotta, again, have faith in the realtor that you hire, that they're looking out for your best interest. Don't get too stuck on price. I know that everybody, like you said, wants as much as they can get.
Yeah.
But setting the price of your home where it should be, number one, it's been proven that you're more likely to get full price offers. You're gonna get more showings. And in the end, you're only gonna get what your house is worth anyway.
Yeah.
So it's best to just do it right from the start. And that goes back to something else that I said earlier. If it sounds too good to be true.
It probably
So just
is.
because an agent says that your house is worth $50,000 more than all the others in the neighborhood does not mean a thing. They need to justify that price.
Yeah.
So, because the appraiser is gonna have to justify that price to the bank.
And that's where I think this is really helpful. I know it is to me, but I hope to the listeners it's really helpful too, and to understand that there's a lot more. Real estate isn't a guessing game, and it's not just kind of playing around with, oh, pretty home, here I'm going to say it's worth this much. There's formulas and a lot of work that goes into finding out.
It is. It really is. Okay, so have we got any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's all that I saw for today, and I'm afraid I could probably keep you on here for like 2 more hours asking questions that I have, but
Well,
I don't want to.
shoot out a question if it's on top of your mind or something.
Okay, so here's a funny question, and this one, most people may already know it. You asked.
Okay.
Most people may already know it, but it's just something fun to think about. If I have a house in Greenwood, South Carolina, and it's only worth X number of dollars, and then I go and I look at a house in Roanoke, Virginia, and it's worth $150,000 more, same exact house, how is that happening?
You ever heard the saying that real estate is local?
I have.
That's what it means. It depends on where you're looking. Roanoke, Virginia may have more opportunities. It may be more of a thriving town, even though Greenwood is a thriving town. It's all about location.
Exactly.
And it's funny because so much of real estate is done pretty much the same. I mean, I was on the other side of the United States, and I was talking about real estate, and the Uber driver that was driving me, he's like, oh, I've got my real estate license. And so we got to talking about some things that were going on, and it was so funny because his complaints and his observations about the market, they were the same as mine, but prices, obviously that was in Vegas, so prices, there was a huge difference in price, but the how-tos and the processes and all that were pretty much the same. So.
And I think that's what I appreciate. I'm glad you clarified that, just for me and for whoever else might have that question, because some people are like, well, I know it's a different state, but they're both rural areas. It's still, it's not in a big city. My house should be worth that much.
Right.
They don't understand that it does come down to location, opportunity, and I'm assuming climate and a lot of other things play into it too, the way the house is built.
Exactly. A house here, I'm going to just throw out a round number of, let's say if a house here is 200,000, that house is probably going to be, I don't know, 250,000 if you get closer to Greenville.
Wow. Okay.
So, condos here, 150,
Yeah.
200, 300 and up in Greenville. And especially if you're in a downtown place in Greenville, it's location, location, location. All right. So, if that's my last question, if you think of any others,
All right.
all
Yeah.
right.
And if we hear of any more that come in, we'll definitely cover them.
That's a very good point. Okay, so are you ready to elaborate on a few of the things that you said on our last show that we got a couple questions?
I'm as ready as I'm gonna be.
All right, let's do it. This is a fair one. Doesn't talk therapy mean talking about past issues or events that has happened in their lives?
That's a good question. Yes, it does. For the short answer, talk therapy can definitely focus on past issues or events that have happened. A lot of the focus with talk therapy and the way it works is it's not just sitting down and having a conversation with someone. There is a driven beginning and end that we're trying to find.
And we're referring to the cognitive behavior therapy.
Yes,
that you
CBT,
mentioned?
cognitive
Okay.
behavioral therapy. And basically the short end of what cognitive behavioral therapy is we're trying to keep clients in the here and now. And we're trying to help them work through, all right, here is where you were back in that time. We know that whatever happened, we can't really change that. Now there are extensions of therapy where you could go a lot deeper with a client, and if they don't have closure to an issue or it hasn't been resolved, even if it's like a past trauma, well sure, you can stay in the past for a while and talk about it, but you don't want the client to be in the past. You don't want them to be stuck in that world or that event. And so with something like CBT, our goal is to try to have them focus more in the here and now about, all right, here's what happened to you. We'll get through that process. But how do you feel it's impacting you today? What are some things that you could maybe do different today? What's a way you could maybe think differently today? How could you respond to that question knowing what you know today after the years of wisdom and experience you've been through?
Because they're kind of a different person now than they were, say, 15, 20, and 25 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
And hopefully they are.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and they have a lot more experience, worldview. Now, there are some people that I will say on the safe side of that. There are some people who don't move on mentally past that point. There are some people where they may have experienced an incident or a trauma in their life to a point where they're kind of stuck there. And that may have happened when they were 12 years old, but when they're 22, they're still thinking like they were when they were 12.
Wow.
Because nobody spent the time to sit down and talk to them and help them understand or develop some kind of coping skill to know that they don't have to, if it's a trauma, to be in fear of it or to have the constant flashbacks from it.
Right.
And so it works both ways depending on the extent, the level, and about 5,000 other questions that we were probably asked.
Okay.
So yeah, talk therapy can be very complex. It can start out very simple. You know, one of the first questions that just about every counselor and therapist or social worker asks is, what brings you here today? That's usually the first question you'll hear from any of us. And that opens a floodgate, and we just wait and see what we get from it. And then we try to look at what are the goals that the client has and what specifically brought them to us. And that's where we try to keep our focus. So if we say, what brought you here today? And an hour and a half later, we have 55 questions. We're going to start asking, what do you want out of this?
Right.
And then, no matter how many times those other questions come in, we don't chase that rabbit, if you will.
Right.
We stay focused on where we are because that's what the client needs from us.
And you want to hear their goal, and you help them through your therapy. And
The biggest thing and the biggest misnomer is, well, therapy is really simple. I can do this too. I'm going to go do this on my cousin tonight because they're having a problem. They aren't getting along with their boyfriend. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can talk, you can be a listening ear, but there's a lot of training and technique and different things that you learn when you get this degree. And the biggest thing is you're removed from the issue.
I was getting ready to say that. It's like, okay, if I had an issue, I mean, I do, but you know.
We all do.
We all, yeah.
We all do.
But anyway, and if I said, okay, I'm going to go talk to my friend about this, I would think that there are some things that I may not want to open up completely about with my friend that I probably would if it were you. a counselor.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'll tell a stranger anything they ask me. Well, you know, I mean, but anyway, but I would think that there's a closeness that will actually be a negative impact on the counseling.
There is. There's a process that we go through, and like I say, I mean, short of being a brain surgeon or an astronaut, anybody can do just about anything if they try hard enough. So I never say no, nobody could ever be a counselor. But there are things that we learn and we go through and we practice over and over, just like with real estate. You have to learn and take tests and practice.
Right.
So the thing about the talk therapy part is, yeah, you could talk to just about anybody about your issue. But there is something about sitting down in a room with someone and them saying, look, I'm here for you. And that's all. If you tell me the sky is green, the sky is green because that's what you see. And I wanted to let you know another thing. Whatever you say in this room stays in this room. It's protected. And it doesn't go anywhere else.
Right.
And we tell them, you know, we give them our confidentiality notice and we tell them about duty to warn, which is, you know, unless you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, this is all private. It's all protected. I can't tell anybody what you share with me.
Right. Well, and that's something that people need to be aware of, you know? They can tell you anything.
Yeah.
And short of those two things, it's not going anywhere and there's no judgment.
Right. And that's the biggest thing that, you know, I've seen a lot of really good clinicians over the years. They try to focus when they're building that relationship with their client and they're trying to build some trust. One of the first things they do is emphasize, not just by saying it, but by doing it, it's a no judgment atmosphere.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you did. I'm advocating for you. And it's amazing when people come in my office, they're expecting to come into a sterile doctor's office, and I've got 16-foot ceilings and antique furniture in my office.
There is nothing sterile about y'all's office.
No,
so kudos to y'all.
And I think it's, you know, for us it's on two levels of we have an owner that really respects the feel of what someone is going to walk into based on the issues that they've experienced throughout their life or based on what they're dealing with when they come in that door.
Right.
And the clinicians that we have working in that organization, different races, different genders, different ages, different specializations, different experiences.
So you guys do y'all work with kids too?
We work with kids, we work with adults, we work with the elderly population, we work with addictions. There is not much that we will not touch.
Well, I know y'all work with real estate agents and our
we
afflictions and stuff.
And we don't even bill them all the time. Just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding.
All right, so the next question that got sent in.
Oh, another one. Okay.
Yeah. He or she, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but says, you mentioned not being in the sun enough can cause or be a factor for seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Does a tanning bed provide the necessary light that could help? And before you answer this, I'm just going to say, once upon a time, I was a diehard tanning bed, and every time I went out, I was sure that I felt better. So, what's the actual answer?
You probably felt better because the dopamine levels were just increased in your head and you felt more confident about yourself.
Well,
when you're coming out of the tanning
okay
bed.
then. All right. But what's the real answer?
The real answer is this. No, there is a difference.
Okay.
Tanning beds, and I'm not going to get into the details of this, but
Okay.
tanning beds essentially use something called UVA lighting, okay? Vitamin D lighting is called UVB lighting. And so it is different in what happens to your body and what is absorbed in your body. So it's almost like there's a difference between a bright light coming and reflecting off of your body or absorbing in enough to give your skin tone a different color than light reflecting in your body and affecting the chemical makeup of your body.
Okay.
And so there are definitely some differences between the two. And I've actually gotten some questions from some people that heard the show too about, well, what is this about winter and how in the world could you be depressed in the summertime?
Really? That thought went through my head. How can you be depressed in summertime?
Well, and you, for example, you know, you're dealing with people with all kinds of different levels of activity and different levels of functioning. And if you're in the South and you've lived in the South for any period of time, the sun does not do what it does up north. It doesn't hit your body and bounce off. In South, the sun absorbs about 4 or 5 layers into your skin and you get really, really hot. And so some of those things have an influence on people's ability to be outdoors for long periods of time.
Right.
So believe it or not, in the summertime, you can actually neglect your body from catching vitamin D lighting because it could be too hot. You could not be able to function in it, and it just might not be a good atmosphere for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was more great information. Do you want to tell people again? I don't want to run long on this, but do you want to tell people again how to get in touch with you?
We sure do. I am Tim Duncan again with Synergy Counseling in Greenwood. We are at 101 East Cambridge Avenue here in Greenwood, and if you've never seen the building before, I encourage you to drive by, especially right now, because for Christmas it is looking phenomenal.
It really is. I agree 100%.
And if you need to reach us, a phone number is 864-223-2243, or you can go to synergycounselinggreenwood.com.
Very good. And remember, if anyone wants to send in any questions or request any topics or anything, you can do so at bradshawradio@gmail.com. That's the only thing that comes into that email. And if it's within our areas of expertise, we'll answer it, or we'll find the answer out for you for sure. Make sure to go to www. I know I don't have to say that, but I just like to. Make sure to go to www.discovergreenwoodsc.com, and that's our real estate website. And there you can do anything from, obviously, see all available properties, find out about the rest of my team, contact any of us through text, and you can even request a showing right there on the website. So we kind of make it easy. Or if that doesn't work for you, you can call us at 864-341-7774. Someone is always going to answer that phone and be willing, ready, and able to help you with whatever you need, even on weekends and holidays. So, as we close out this show, with tomorrow being Christmas Day, the whole team at the Bradshaw Group, as well as Synergy Counseling of Greenwood, want to extend a heartfelt Christmas wish for everyone, from our families to yours. Wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hopefully it will be a relaxing and blessed holiday because you've earned it. We made it through 2024, well, close to it anyway. Remember, Smooth Moves with the Bradshaw Group will be here again next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, right here on Emerald City Radio. And our own Chad Prince Webb is going to be here giving some great advice about New Year's goals and financial planning as it relates to buying a home. And who knows what other hot topics he may come up with. You just never know. Again, make sure to tune in to Emerald City Radio, 1090 AM or 107.2 FM. Thanks so much. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.